In the heart of the Great Lakes, veiled in the mist of time and shrouded in ominous whispers, sails the ghost ship Eternal Lament, a vessel that haunts the waters, revealing secrets so horrifying they are taken to the graves by those unfortunate enough to discover them. The story begins on a chilly autumn evening when a group of intrepid sailors set out on the siren's call, seeking adventure and captivated by the lure of a treasure hidden deep in the heart of Lake Superior. The captain, a seasoned sailor named Elijah, had grown up listening to the tales of the ghost ship that roamed these waters, preying on the souls of the living, but he never believed them. That is, until that fateful night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the water, an unnatural fog began to envelop the siren's call, chilling the crew to their bones. From within the mists emerged the ghostly form of the Eternal Lament, its sails torn and fluttering like the wings of a trapped bird, and its hull emitting a faint, ghostly glow. Suddenly, the air was pierced by a horrifying scream, and the crew of the siren's call realized they were not alone. Spectral figures began to emerge from the water, climbing onto the deck with their wet, grasping hands. The crew fought bravely, but one by one, they were dragged screaming into the depths, leaving Captain Elijah to face the horrors alone. In a terrifying twist, as Elijah stood on the brink of despair, the ghost ship's captain appeared before him. Not a specter or phantom, but a man, seemingly alive, yet with an ancient, sorrowful look in his eyes. He revealed to Elijah that the Great Lakes were ancient, far older than any could imagine, and that they were alive. The lakes, he explained, demanded a tribute of souls to slumber in peace, and the Eternal Lament was their collector. The captain offered Elijah a grim choice: join the crew of the Eternal Lament, committing to an eternity of collecting souls, or watch as his beloved siren's call and her crew were dragged to the watery depths, their screams echoing through the night. In a heart-stopping moment of decision, Elijah realized the truth. The ghost ship, the spectral crew, and the restless waters of the Great Lakes themselves were imprisoned in a cycle of horror, a pact sealed with ancient beings that dwelled deep beneath the waves, beings of unimaginable power and insatiable hunger for the souls of the drowned. In a desperate bid for survival and to protect his crew, Elijah agreed to the ghastly pact, but with a terrifying twist of his own. In a display of cunning and bravery, he challenged the ancient beings themselves, using the ghost ship's ancient and forgotten magic to break the cycle, freeing the souls ensnared by the lake's thirst. The battle that ensued was epic, with the forces of the deep unleashing horrors that would drive any sane man mad. But Elijah, propelled by the love for his crew and a fierce determination to end the cycle of terror, fought with the fury of the damned. As the dawn broke, the Eternal Lament vanished into thin air, leaving behind a calm, serene Lake Superior. The siren's call and her crew were saved, but at a great cost. Elijah was never the same, haunted till the end of his days by what he had seen and the horrors he had fought. And while the siren's call sailed the Great Lakes for many more years, and its crew grew old and passed on their stories, the tale of the ghost ship Eternal Lament and the ancient secrets of the lakes lived on, whispered as a warning to those who would dare disturb the murky depths. For deep beneath the waves, the ancient beings still hunger, waiting for the day they might rise again. In the depth of a cold, foggy night on Lake Michigan, the vast expanse of water whispered with the secrets of 1,000 shipwrecks. Among these lost vessels, one legend stood apart, a story so chilling that even the bravest sailors dared not speak its name above a whisper: the ghost ship of Lake Michigan. The story begins with the Artemis, a grand merchant ship that set sail from the shores of Chicago in the late 1800s. She was a splendid vessel, boasting the finest oak woods and sails as white as snow, tasked with carrying precious cargo across the Great Lake. But as fate would have it, on one fateful night, a tempest unlike any other descended upon Lake Michigan. Lightning cleaved the inky sky as monstrous waves tossed the Artemis like a mere plaything. When dawn broke, the storm had passed, leaving behind an unsettling calm. The Artemis was nowhere to be found. Search parties scoured the lake for weeks, but all they found was an eerie silence that seemed to mock their efforts. It was as if the Artemis had been swallowed whole by the lake, leaving not a trace behind. The ship was declared lost, and in time, she faded into the realm of legend. Decades turned to centuries, yet the tale of the Artemis lingered. Sailors reported seeing a ghostly ship gliding across the waters on nights when the fog was thick enough to cloak the world in shadow. They spoke of a vessel that shimmered with an ethereal light, sails torn and tattered, yet billowing as if caught in a gale. One night, a daring young captain named Elijah, fascinated by the legend, set out to uncover the truth. He and his crew sailed into the heart of the lake, where the deepest secrets were said to be kept. As the midnight hour approached, a thick fog enveloped their boat, and an eerie silence fell. The lapping of the waves against the hull was the only sound until they heard the distant toll of a bell. It was a sound no earthly ship would carry, echoing through the fog in a rhythm that chilled the marrow in their bones. Then, from the mist ahead, emerged the ghostly form of the Artemis. Her decks were rotted, and her sails were full of holes. The ship glided over the water without a sound, save for the haunting toll of the bell. The crew of Elijah's boat watched, paralyzed with fear, as apparitions appeared on the deck of the Artemis. These spectral sailors were condemned to relive their final moments, their faces twisted in terror and despair. As the ghost ship passed, Elijah felt a coldness grip his heart. The Artemis turned, her hull creaking ominously, and set a collision course with their boat. In a desperate bid for survival, Elijah ordered his crew to turn the boat around, but the fog was so thick that direction became meaningless. Just as the Artemis was about to collide with their boat, she vanished into thin air, leaving behind a chilling silence. Elijah and his crew made it back to shore, their minds tormented by what they had witnessed. They spoke of eyes that glared out from the darkness, of hands that reached out from the water, and of voices that whispered their deepest fears. The story of Elijah's encounter with the Artemis spread far and wide, reigniting the old fears and adding a new chapter to the legend. It was said that the ghost ship still roams Lake Michigan, a reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath its waves. For on nights when the fog rolls in thick and the wind carries a whisper, the Artemis sails again, searching for unwary souls to join her eternal crew. This tale serves as a chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved, for the truth behind them can be far more terrifying than any legend. In the heart of the unforgiving waters of Lake Superior, there whispers a tale so chilling that it curdles the blood of the most seasoned mariners. This is the story of the Spectre, a ghost ship that sails the inky depths, a harbinger of doom for those unfortunate enough to cross its path. It was November, when the gales of winter were at their most merciless, that the Spectre claimed the SS Edmund, a sturdy vessel manned by a crew of 20 hardy souls. The day had started as any other, with the crew preparing to brave the lake's icy clutches. Yet, as twilight descended, an eerie silence enveloped the ship. The air grew thick. A palpable sense of dread hung over the Edmund. The first sign of the curse was a thick fog that seemed to emerge from the depths of the lake itself, swallowing the Edmund whole. Out of the mist, there came a sound, a low moan that crescendoed into a wail, the likes of which none aboard had heard before. Panic set in as the crew scrambled, unsure of the direction from which the phantom noises emanated. Then, Through the fog, a vision appeared. An ancient ship, its sails torn and fluttering in a wind that the Edmund could not feel, its hull encrusted with the detritus of ages. The specter had found them. It was said that those who gaze upon the ghost ship are marked for death, and so it seemed for the crew of the Edmund. One by one, they vanished. Some were pulled, screaming, into the lake by unseen hands. Others disappeared without a sound, leaving only empty spaces to mark their passing. The ship's captain, a man of considerable bravery, was the last to face the specter's wrath. He awoke to find his crew gone, the ship adrift, and the ghost ship looming ever closer. In a final act of defiance, the captain steered the Edmund towards the phantom vessel, determined to break the curse or die trying. Just as the two ships were about to collide, the captain felt a hand upon his shoulder and turned to see the spectral figure of a former sailor, his eyes hollow, his voice a whisper from the grave. "Turn back," it moaned, "or join us in the depths." But it was too late. The specter enveloped the Edmund, and as the two ships became one, a terrifying silence fell. When the fog lifted, the Edmund was nowhere to be seen. Both vessels had vanished into the abyss, leaving only the lake's chilling waters to tell of their demise. Since that fateful night, many have claimed to see the specter sailing the waters of Lake Superior, always on stormy evenings when the barrier between the living and the dead grows thin. Sailors whisper of hearing whales carried on the wind, of seeing ghostly figures walking upon the water's surface, reaching out to the living with hands that drip with the cold waters of the lake. And so, the legend of the specter lives on, a tale of horror and mystery that haunts the dreams of those who ply Lake Superior's treacherous waters. For in the heart of the lake, death sails silently, ever searching for new souls to take to their watery graves.